Guys, before we get into anything else, I need you to sit with one question. In the latest Plathville finale, when the family sat Zac and Lydia down and basically told them you two have a problem, was that really a family trying to protect Lydia? Or was it a family realizing Lydia may not be as emotionally available to them as she used to be? Because on the surface, this whole situation sounds simple. The Plaths believe Zac is too controlling. They think he talks too much. They think he judges their lifestyle. They think he gives opinions nobody asked for. And if we are being honest, there are moments where that criticism makes sense. A new husband walking into a family that already has years of tension, trauma, resentment, religion, divorce, rebellion, and public drama behind it, then giving opinions about alcohol, games, TV, and what younger siblings should be around, that is going to create a problem fast. Nobody likes being corrected by someone who just walked through the door. But that is not where this story ends. Because if you actually watch Lydia during that confrontation, she does not look like someone who feels rescued. She does not look like someone thinking, finally, my family sees what I have been dealing with. She looks cornered. She looks embarrassed. She looks like her marriage is being put on trial in front of the same people who have already questioned it before. And that is where the story gets a lot more complicated. Because now the internet is split between two very different readings of the same situation. One side sees Zac and says, there it is. Red flag. He is controlling. He talks over Lydia. He thinks he knows better than everyone. The other side looks at the Plaths and says, wait a minute. Are they really worried about control? Or are they upset because Lydia chose a husband they cannot manage? And honestly, both questions are fair. That is why this finale hit harder than a normal family argument. It was not just about Zac being liked or disliked. It was about power. It was about influence. It was about who gets to define Lydia's choices now that she is married. Then we get that confessional moment, the one fans instantly grabbed onto. Zac interrupts Lydia while she is speaking, and the internet does what the internet always does. It pauses the clip, builds a courtroom, picks a villain, and acts like context is something weak people use. A lot of viewers saw that moment and said, this proves it. He does not let her speak. He controls the room. He controls the narrative. And to be fair, interrupting your wife while she is trying to answer a question is not a great look. That is not exactly a charming husband of the year edit. But then Lydia came out and defended him. She said there was context missing. She said it had been a long filming day. She said she was exhausted. And he was stepping in because she did not have the energy in that moment. So now the question becomes even messier. Was that interruption proof of a deeper pattern? Or did fans take one awkward, edited moment from a tired couple and turn it into the whole story? That is why this is not just a recap. This is a full relationship breakdown. Because the real issue is not one sentence, one interruption, or one uncomfortable family meeting. The real issue is whether Lydia's voice is actually being heard by anyone. Not just Zac, not just Kim, not just Barry, not just Ethan or Moriah. Anyone. Because the strangest part of this whole confrontation is that everybody is talking about Lydia, everybody is worried about Lydia, everybody is claiming to protect Lydia. But Lydia herself looks like the person with the least room to breathe. So let's break down what actually happened. This all plays out in Season 8, Episode 12, From the Horse's Mouth. The official setup of the episode is that the family confronts Lydia and Zac about what they see as judgmental behavior. Then, almost immediately after that, the family comes together to honor Joshua, and later there is this emotional anniversary moment for Lydia and Zac. And that order matters. Because this family has a very specific emotional rhythm. They can go from confrontation to grief to celebration, all in the same episode, almost like everybody is expected to emotionally switch channels on command. 1 minute, they are challenging Zac and Lydia's behavior. The next minute, they are trying to create a tender family moment. Then they are smiling through an anniversary surprise. That kind of emotional whiplash tells you a lot. It does not mean the love is fake. I do think there is love in this family. But love and pressure can exist in the same room. Care and control can wear the same outfit. And with the Plaths, that is where things often get confusing. The family's complaint against Zac is not random. They are not just saying, we do not like his vibe. They are saying he comments on their lifestyle. He has opinions about alcohol being around. He has opinions about games. He has opinions about what is on TV. He has opinions about what younger family members are exposed to. And this is where I think the family actually has a point. There is a big difference between having a personal boundary and trying to make your boundary the law of the room. A boundary sounds like, I do not want to drink. Control starts to sound like, nobody should be drinking around me, because I do not approve. A boundary sounds like, that game is not for me. Control starts to sound like, this game should not be played, because I think it is wrong. A boundary sounds like, Lydia and I are not comfortable with that. Control starts to sound like, everyone else needs to adjust because Lydia and I are uncomfortable. That line matters. And from what we saw, Zac seems to blur that line more than once. That does not mean he is evil. It does not mean every concern he has is automatically wrong. But when you enter a family system you have not earned trust in yet, delivery matters, timing matters, tone matters. If people already feel judged by you, even a normal opinion can sound like a sermon. And let's be honest, nobody signs up for a casual family gathering hoping to receive a spiritual performance review from the new husband. But now here is where the Plaths do not get to act innocent either. Because Lydia was not raised in some loose, wild, anything-goes household. This is the Plath family. This family became known because of strict rules, conservative values, limited exposure to the outside world, and a very controlled way of raising kids. Lydia, more than a lot of her siblings, stayed close to that value system for a long time. So when Zac and Lydia are uncomfortable with drinking, certain games, or more worldly behavior, where do people think those instincts came from? They did not appear out of the sky. The uncomfortable truth is that Zac may be saying things that sound judgmental now. But the roots of those beliefs are not foreign to the Plath family. In some ways, Zac is holding up a mirror to an older version of Plathville, and I think that is part of why the family reacts so strongly. It is not only that Zac is judging them, it is that Zac may be reminding them of the version of themselves they are trying to move away from. Kim and Barry have both changed in different ways. The kids have changed. The family rules have changed. The public image has changed. The whole family has spent years dealing with what freedom means after growing up inside such a strict system. And now here comes Zac, married to Lydia, talking like certain things are not appropriate. Certain exposure is not healthy. Certain behavior is not okay. For some of the Plaths, that may not just sound annoying. It may sound familiar. And familiar can be more triggering than new. That is the twist. Zac may be overstepping, and the family may still be reacting from their own unresolved history. Both things can be true. That is what makes this more interesting than just saying, Zac bad, family good, or family bad, Zac good. Reality TV fans love a clean villain. The problem is, this family does not give us clean villains. They give us people repeating old patterns while accusing each other of being the problem. Very generous of them. Very emotionally exhausting. Now let's talk about Lydia, because she is really the center of this. Lydia is stuck between two loyalty systems. On one side, she has her husband. Her marriage is new, public, and already under pressure. If she does not defend Zac, it can look like she is letting her family attack him. If she does defend Zac, it can look like she is blind to his behavior. No matter what she says, somebody is going to use it as evidence. On the other side, she has her family. These are the people who raised her, shaped her, questioned her choices, and still seem to feel some ownership over what is best for her. When they say they are worried, they may genuinely mean it. But concern can become pressure very quickly when it does not leave space for the person to disagree. That is Lydia's trap. If she says, I am fine, people may say Zac coached her. If she says, Zac is misunderstood, people may say she is protecting him. If she cries, people may say she is trapped. If she stays calm, people may say she is hiding something. That is a brutal position to put someone in. And this is why I keep coming back to Lydia's face in that confrontation. Because her emotion does not feel simple. It does not read as just anger. It does not read as just sadness. It reads like someone who knows that whatever answer she gives, she is going to lose something. That is why the family's approach matters. Even if they have valid concerns, the way they bring those concerns to Lydia can either open her up or shut her down. If the conversation feels like, we love you, and we want to understand what is happening, that is one thing. But if it feels like, we have already decided your husband is the problem, and now we need you to admit it, Lydia is probably going to defend him harder. That is basic human behavior. The more someone feels accused, the more they protect their side. And this is where Zac's history with the family matters. He did not come into this group with everyone giving him the benefit of the doubt. There had already been tension around the relationship. There had already been concern. There had already been suspicion. So by the time this confrontation happens, nobody is hearing each other cleanly anymore. The family hears Zac speak, and they hear judgment. Zac hears the family speak, and he hears rejection. Lydia hears the family criticize Zac, and she hears them questioning her judgment. That is how family conflict turns into a loop. Nobody is only reacting to what was just said. Everyone is reacting to what they believe the other person really means. That is why the confessional interruption became such a huge moment online. Fans were already watching Zac through the lens of control. So when he interrupted Lydia, it fit the story they were already building. And once a moment fits the story, people stop asking questions. Some viewers believe that scene showed exactly what the family was worried about. They saw Zac taking over the answer and Lydia being pushed to the side. And honestly, I understand why people reacted that way. In a relationship where control is already being questioned, interrupting your partner in a filmed interview is going to land badly. But other viewers are more hesitant. They believe Lydia's explanation should matter. They think fans may be overreading one moment because the edit wanted tension. They think a long filming day, emotional exhaustion, and producer questions can create awkward exchanges that do not always reflect the full relationship. Both reactions exist, and the smart way to talk about this is not to pretend one clip proves everything. The smarter question is whether that moment matches a larger pattern. Does Zac regularly speak for Lydia? Does Lydia get space to disagree with him? Does she seem afraid to correct him? Does he listen when she pushes back? Does the family actually respect Lydia's answers when they are not the answers they want? Those are the real questions. Because control is not always loud. Sometimes it looks like someone slowly taking up more and more space until the other person gets used to being smaller. But family pressure can look similar. A family can also take up so much space that a person feels like their independent choices will never be believed. That is why this story is so layered. People are arguing over whether Zac controls Lydia, but the deeper issue may be that multiple people are trying to control the meaning of Lydia's behavior. Zac may see her as his wife who needs protection from a family that judges him. The Plaths may see her as a daughter or sister who needs protection from a husband they do not trust. Fans may see her as a woman who needs saving, even when she says she is okay. And somewhere under all of that is Lydia herself, trying to make her own marriage and family identity make sense in front of cameras. That is a lot. Now, let's be fair to Zac for a second, because commentary only works when we do not flatten people into cardboard villains. It is possible Zac genuinely believes he is protecting Lydia. It is possible he sees certain family behaviors and thinks, this is not healthy for us. It is possible his comments come from conviction, not manipulation. A person can have strict values without automatically being controlling. But conviction becomes a problem when it leaves no room for other adults to make different choices. That is where Zac has to be careful. If he wants a relationship with the Plaths, he cannot enter every room like the moral temperature needs to be checked. People do not trust correction from someone they do not feel respected by. If Zac wants to be heard, he has to show that he can listen without turning every disagreement into a values debate. And the Plaths have work to do too. They cannot keep treating Lydia like her choices only count if the family agrees with them. If Lydia says she is happy, that does not mean nobody is allowed to observe red flags. But it does mean her words should not be dismissed immediately, just because they are inconvenient. That is where the family risks pushing her further away. Because if Lydia feels like defending Zac is the only way to prove she is loyal to her marriage, she may double down. If she feels like her family is waiting for her marriage to fail so they can say, "We told you so," she may stop sharing anything real with them. And that is usually how distance starts. Not with one huge fight. With a person realizing that every conversation costs too much. Now let's look at the fan reaction. Because this is where the storyline gets even more explosive. A lot of viewers are reacting emotionally because this touches something bigger than Zac and Lydia. People have seen relationships where one partner slowly takes control. They know what it looks like when someone speaks over another person, isolates them, or frames every concern as protection. So when fans see Zac interrupt Lydia or judge the family's lifestyle, alarms go off. That reaction is understandable. But there is another group of viewers saying, hold on. The Plaths have their own control issues. Why are we acting like they are neutral observers? And that is also understandable. This family has a long history of conflict with outsiders. Olivia was treated like a threat for years because she changed the family dynamic. Now Zac is being treated like a threat too, but for almost the opposite reason. Olivia represented freedom from the old system. Zac, in some ways, represents a return to stricter values. That comparison is important because it suggests the Plath family may struggle with anyone who becomes too influential in one of their children's lives. Whether that person is pulling away from the old rules or reinforcing them, the issue is influence. Who has it? Who lost it? And who is trying to get it back? That is the real power struggle here. And honestly, this is why the anniversary surprise at the end feels so strange. After all that tension, after all that emotional pressure, after Lydia breaks down and Zac is confronted, the family still tries to create a sweet moment. And again, I do not think that sweetness is fake. Families can fight hard and love hard. That is real. But it also shows how quickly this family tries to move from conflict to sentiment without fully resolving the conflict. That is a pattern. The confrontation does not just disappear because there is a touching moment afterward. The questions are still sitting there. Does Zac understand how he is coming across? Does Lydia feel truly free to speak? Does the family trust her at all? Can Kim and Barry recognize that some of Zac's values may reflect the world they created for Lydia? Can Ethan and Moriah separate real concern from old family resentment? Those questions are not solved by a nice surprise. They are only delayed. And that is why I think this storyline is going to keep growing. My prediction is that if the family keeps pushing Zac as the problem, Lydia will probably become more defensive. Not because every concern is wrong, but because nobody wants to feel like their marriage is being treated as a group project. If she feels judged, she is going to protect Zac harder. If Zac feels rejected, he may become even more guarded around the family. And if the Plaths feel like they are losing access to Lydia, they may push even more. That is the cycle. Push, defend, pull away. Panic, push again. And once a family gets stuck in that cycle, even normal conversations start sounding like threats. Long term, the biggest danger is not that everyone disagrees. Families can survive disagreement. The real danger is that Lydia becomes a symbol instead of a person. To Zac, she could become the wife he has to protect. To the Plaths, she could become the daughter they have to rescue. To fans, she could become the woman everyone is trying to diagnose from a few edited scenes. But Lydia is not a symbol. She is the person living inside all of this. So the most important thing going forward is not whether Zac wins or the Plaths win. It is whether Lydia gets enough space to speak without everybody immediately turning her words into evidence for their side. Because if she says Zac is misunderstood, people need to ask why she feels that way. If she says her family hurt her, people need to ask what history is behind that. If she looks overwhelmed, people need to ask whether the pressure is coming from one direction or from every direction at once. That is the real conversation. Not Zac is definitely controlling. Not the Plaths are definitely jealous. The real conversation is, what happens when a young marriage enters a family system that already has years of unresolved control issues? Because that is exactly what we are watching. Zac may need to learn that having strong beliefs does not give him permission to manage everybody else's behavior. Lydia may need to prove, not to fans, but to herself, that her voice still matters inside her marriage. And the Plaths may need to accept that Lydia can make a choice they do not like without automatically being manipulated. That is the hard part. Because concern can be loving, but concern can also become a cage when it refuses to believe the person it claims to protect. So at the end of this episode, I do not think the biggest question is simply, is Zac controlling Lydia? The bigger question is, why does everyone seem so invested in deciding what Lydia's life means before Lydia gets to define it for herself? And that is why this finale felt so uncomfortable. It was not just a fight about one husband's behavior. It was a fight about trust. It was a fight about old values coming back in a new form. It was a fight about a family realizing that Lydia may be stepping out of the role they expected her to keep. So now I want to know what you think. Do you believe Zac is showing real controlling behavior, and the Plaths are right to be concerned? Or do you think the family is uncomfortable because Lydia's loyalty has shifted, and they are not used to seeing her choose someone outside their influence? Because from where I am sitting, This story is not over. If anything, this confrontation may be the moment where the family stopped pretending the issue was just Zac's opinions. The real issue is Lydia's independence. And once a family starts feeling like they are losing someone, they do not always get calmer. Sometimes, they hold on even tighter.